Hello there everyone, it's me Harry, and now we're on part 5 of the Infogrames Atari Mega Collection. Believe me, part 5 already. That means we've only got one more part to go after this, and right now we're going to be looking at games from 2005 all the way to 2007. This is going to be quite a shorter one because Atari started releasing less and less games by 2005. It was mainly due to their financial issues, but there's still a good amount anyway, so we'll take a look at them. And we're starting off with the PC version of Forgotten Realms Demon's Stone, released at the very beginning of 2005 alongside the Xbox version. So as I said in the previous part, the PS2 version came out first, and this version came out a little later, as with the Xbox version. Act of War Direct Action. This is another strategy kind of game, and that's everything I have to say. So enjoy it spinning around. And then here is the keep case inside, and there's also a little thing that displays different weapons and whatnot. Yeah, and if you can also see, this was by that point, Atari started using just their little tripod Fuji symbol on their games, rather than just using the entire logo itself. Pretty fascinating little touch they did there. The PS2 version of Atari Anthology, which came out about 2 months after the Xbox version. Kind of a strange thing to occur, but I'm guessing Microsoft must have paid some sort of console exclusivity rights or something to have the Xbox version come out before. But I have no idea. The PC version of Driver 3, which came out almost a year after the original PS2 and Xbox versions. It's, as before, the same game, but adds an additional extra mission into it as well, as what the front cover says. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, an enhanced version of the PlayStation 2 title of the same name. So this is yet another game from Bandai. And, yep, it's a whole lot of fun. It's always nice to see, the GameCube versions being more enhanced over the original PS2 versions. A shame Budokai 3 didn't get the same treatment. But it could have done, but I'm guessing Bandai or Dimps or Toei Animation wasn't that interested or something. Boiling Point Road to Hell. I think this game was developed by a Ukraine studio. I think that's where Deep Shadows was based in, but I don't know for sure. And also, interestingly enough, it also came with its slipcover. If I could even hold it right. And that's the only Atari game I think I have that does have a slipcover. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Soaked, the first expansion pack to Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Now introducing water parks! And that's something that all theme park simulations should include. Because it's always nice to kick back and relax and swim in the pool. Although it seems like whenever I construct my own, it always seems like the peeps always prefer doing that. And then here is the little pamphlet about other Atari titles. Ones from the Best of Atari lineup. And then some upcoming titles on the back as well. Some of them I've already shown off. Some I may have mentioned before as well. Fahrenheit or Indigo Prophecy from Quantic Dream, a French developer. And this version of the game in Europe was uncut, with a 15 rating, whilst originally the uncut version had an AO rating in the States, so Atari had to edit it down to an M rating. But when Quantic Dream re-released it in 2015 or 16, I don't remember when, it was released uncut with an M rating, so I'm guessing the ESRB must have been having a field day or something, I have no idea. Pretty strange though. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi, the first entry in the sub-series. The very first Dragon Ball game where you can listen to either the English or the Japanese voices. And this is the last game in this video that's solely published under Bandai, because after that, Bandai merged with Namco and formed Namco Bandai Games, i.e. Bandai Namco Entertainment. And as such, that would continue on under them. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Gold Edition. So this is a compilation of the base game and the Soaked expansion pack. It came out the same time that the Wild expansion pack did. And obviously it was meant to be for a way where you could get the game at a much better discount and then you'd get Wild with it. But then, of course, this was swept over by the Deluxe Edition, which came out a little while later. And speaking of Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Wild, here it is. So, as with Soaked, which introduced water parks, this introduced safari parks and zoos to the Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 experience. So, yep, these were actually more fully fledged expansion packs with new content rather than the second game redressing rides to fit themes. Which, yeah, that's all I have to say again. Set within the Eberron universe is Dungeons & Dragons Dragon Shard, the very first real-time strategy game set within any Dungeons & Dragons universe, and it's from a company called Liquid Games. So, and it's also one of the few Atari titles that used a safe disk instead of Securom, so that way it wouldn't work without you having to, well, download something to bypass safe disk, bypassing on modern versions of Windows. GT Legends. So this was a game Atari distributed for Tentacle Publishing. And as such, this is one of, if not maybe one of the only Atari titles, alongside the other games that they published and distributed through Atari by Tentacle, that uses the infamous Star Force DRM. So I've never played this game, and I don't think I'll ever want to, put it in my computer, because Star Force is rather infamous for destroying newer versions of Windows if you're not careful. And here's another Best of Atari release, which I think may have been an original release this time, and it's Neverwinter Nights Kingmaker. So after BioWare finished off the expansion packs for the game, they created 6 premium modules for the game, and 3 of them were bundled with Neverwinter Nights Platinum Edition. And eventually they got their own standalone release through this package. The other 3 didn't get proper offline releases until the remaster of the game from another company, so yeah. The Matrix Path of Neo. So fans complained about the fact Neo wasn't even playable in Enter the Matrix, so with an equally high budget, Shiny Entertainment goes along and develops this game, which retells the entire Matrix trilogy, where you take control of Neo himself. And here's the Xbox version, and there was also a PC version, but I've not been able to find that one yet. It's time to go green again. Mark Echo's Getting Up Contents Under Pressure, an action game focusing on street art and graffiti. A bit like Jet Set Radio in a way. And it's an official Echo Unlimited licensed game. So yeah, I think the original creator of the brand was actually involved in this. Yeah, Mark Echo. So yeah, makes it a worthwhile, fun game developed by the Collective. Here is the original Xbox version. So if you wanted higher quality graphics while you were, going around and street arting everything, here you go. And here is the PC version. Yeah, my copy isn't in the best condition, and the spine is some faded, but it's still nice to have regardless. And, it is about graffitiing things, but it's also got standard, GTA kind of action violence as well. So, yeah, there we are. Tycoon City New York, a game similar to the SimCity franchise from Deep Red Games, where essentially you're recreating New York the way you want it to. And here is the keep case itself. This game was actually advertised on the back of my Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 like packaging or manual or something, and I wanted this game really badly around 2006, but I never got it. Crash Day, a stunt kind of like racing game. So it was developed by, I think it was a German company, and Atari released it in Europe. It was published by Value Soft in North America. So yeah, the developer Moonbite Studios and Replay Studios. But yeah, quite a interesting take on the racing game experience. I like it. Act of War High Treason, the expansion pack to the original Act of War. And as I did with the base game, I don't have anything else to say about this title. It's a real-time strategy, and I'm not really good at them. Another Dungeons & Dragons game set in the Eberron universe, Dungeons & Dragons Online Stormreach, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. So this is the physical release of the game, which Atari published and distributed. The game was originally published, aside from that, by Codemasters, developed by Turbine Studios, and then a little while later it was taken over by Warner Brothers, then the Daybreak Game Company, and then I think they own it, but I'm not sure. I think it might be under another publisher again, I think, but I don't know. Whatever I listed down in the text is the definite. Driver Parallel Lines, Reflections Interactive's apology for the infamous Driver 3. So it's more or less similar to a GTA title. It still has more vehicle-based missions this time, although weapons still appear and you can still walk out of your car. And here is the Xbox version. So this was the last original Xbox game released by Atari in Europe. And this was the last Reflections Interactive title released by Atari, because a couple of months later they had sold off Reflections off to Ubisoft, and they ended up publishing the PC and the Wii ports of Parallel Lines, and all later entries in the franchise. Desperados 2 Cooper's Revenge. This is the sequel to the original Desperados. I don't own the first one, but I have this one, and then there was a third game that was released right after the franchise was bought out during the Atari bankruptcy sale in 2013. I think by the original developers, or THQ Nordic. Yeah, I think it was THQ Nordic. Asterix and Obelix XXL2 Mission Las Vegas. So the game originally came out in 2005 in France and a few other territories, but it came out in the UK in 2006. Although the packaging in this case is in both Dutch and English. So this is meant to be a video game parody. The very first video game to parody video games, as what the blurb says on the back. So yeah, I'm guessing someone at Introduce Lubriz or the license holders for Asterix or Atari or whatever must have thought this was a fun idea. And it was. It's always fun to poke fun at video games itself. And after almost a decade of the name, or well, 6 years of the name not being used in newer titles, Atari was finally able to get the Test Drive name back for the reboot of the franchise, Test Drive Unlimited, a massively multiplayer online racing game, as what Atari called it, developed by Eden Games, although obviously, despite it being an online multiplayer racing game, it's got single player as well. So you're on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, and you're purchasing cars and doing races and what you'd expect in that kind of game. As well as it being Atari's high definition and Xbox 360 debut. So lots of debuts with this title. What else would there be? Neverwinter Nights 2 from Obsidian Entertainment, the sequel to the obviously massively popular Neverwinter Nights, with brand new campaigns, missions, stories, and what you'd expect, and a new version of the Dungeons & Dragons edition rules set. Although I don't really know much about Dungeons & Dragons aside from these games, so what else would I be saying? And they couldn't stop the war even more. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 is, well, on my display stand and spinning around, and yep. So this has something like 100 playable characters, including different transformations and whatnot. And this is the first Atari title I'm showing off here, published under Namco Bandai Games Europe. Although the first game that they did distribute under the name was Super Dragon Ball Z, but I don't have that game yet. And eventually there was a Wii port that was made a couple of months later. Thrillville, from Frontier Developments, and originally published in the States by LucasArts, but Atari released it in Europe under some sort of like licensing agreement. So this is sort of like Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but it's more or less based on mini games and talking to your guests and whatnot. There's not much customization aside from roller coasters and kart racing tracks. And the sequel, Off the Rails, was published by LucasArts in all territories. After the Invisibles, another game from Itchages Labrise, and is based on the French film of the same name, i.e. Are from the Minimoys, as its original name was, but here it's using the localized name, thanks to Harvey Weinstein editing the film. But at least this game isn't edited, it's the same in all languages, aside from the name, of course. Licensed, of course, by Europa Corp. Bullet Witch, a game that was originally published by AQ Interactive, the current day Marvelous, and was developed by Caviar or whatever it was. I don't know. It could have been any company. So this is actually a very interesting title for the fact that the voice actor of Bullet Witch in English is actually Ash Ketchum's voice actor, Sarah Netameni. How cool is that? And yet she was only 19 or 20 when she did the voice for the main character. The PC version of Test Drive Unlimited, which came out a couple of months after the original Xbox 360 version. But aside from that, it's once again the same game as the 360 version. Just that you're controlling with a keyboard and a mouse, or maybe a joystick or a controller. It's your decision, friend. And I don't mind that at all. And here is the PlayStation 2 version, which was developed by Atari Melbourne House and was the last game they developed under Atari before they were sold off to Chrome Studios. So this version of the game is quite different from the 360-PC version. It's missing a few features. You can't choose what your avatar is, but it does have some like new features added in, like you can choose a nearby race, and some of the DLCs already included in this version. And then, of course, the PSP version, which is based on this version as well, is missing quite a bit of content as well because of the system limitations. Neverwinter Nights 2 Mask of the Betrayer, the first expansion pack for Neverwinter Nights 2, adding in a new campaign, new elements, new update version, new everything, as what you'd expect. You'll see the next expansion pack in the next part, the final part. Now here is one of the most legendary RPG games of all time from CD Projekt Red. It is The Witcher, based on the original Polish novels of the same name. And of course Atari published it in Europe, North America and a couple of other territories. What else couldn't be said about this game? Well, here's the DVD keep case, because I have to show that as well. So maybe that's something I did miss out on. Or did I? But yep, a popular game, although its second sequel was even more popular. And the third sequel and the second sequel, well, Witcher 3, is one of the best-selling games of all time. So, yep, Atari brought along what was probably going to be a niche game, ended up becoming a big household name in the video game industry. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. The Dragon Ball game with, at the time, the biggest roster in any Dragon Ball video game entry, or in any fighting game overall, because it has over about 150 or 60 playable characters, including transformation forms. So it's a very loaded fighting game. And it's one of the most sought after as well, especially in North America with the PS2 version, which has features like disc swap mode, where you can unlock older game modes that you can play in the Budokai Tenkaichi 3 game engine. Whilst the Wii version, which I don't have here, has an online mode, although that version's a lot easier to find and a lot cheaper too. Now we're on to the first Wii game in this selection, My Horse and Me, a game that Atari published under a deal with FEI, a horse kind of thing. I've forgotten who developed this one, but I do know it was probably some low-budget company or something. It's what you'd expect for a horse racing game, or like a horse-carrying game for the Wii. Here is the PC version of the game. Pretty much the same exact thing as the Wii version, but without the motion controls, and instead you have keyboard controls and all that. And then there was also this special edition game which came with an extra DVD, a bunch of little novelties like stickers and a little bracelet, and overall it came in a really nice wooden box. It's an actual wooden box made out of wood and everything. It's not like it's carved or anything, but still, really nice high quality box for a kids game. Atari must have been really wanting this to be the next big thing or something. And lastly in this part is Go West, a Lucky Luke adventure, based on the film the same name by Xylem Animation. And as such, we have this video game developed by Tate Interactive, based on it. There was also a Wii version, but I don't have that one. And so, that's it for another week. So, join me next week, as per usual, to see the final part in my Infogrames Atari Mega Collection. And then, I am all done with it. So, thanks for watching everyone. See you next time, and bye for now.